of Detropia, Heidi Ewing.
You guys were such a great crowd. I sat and listened to you, and it was extremely heartwarming. You guys got it. Wow, that's great. I would like to introduce you to the cinematographer of this film and my dear friend, Tony Hardmon. Any questions? Sir?
My wife and I are from the side of Detroit, where we grew up. Were any of the filmmakers also from Detroit?
The question is, welcome Detroiters. Were any of the filmmakers from Detroit? I was born and raised in the suburbs of Detroit, 4 miles from the city. My parents are Detroiters and my grandmother was raised in Detroit. My parents were part of the so-called white flight out of Detroit in 1968 after the riots. So I grew up on the other side of 8 Mile. I grew up on 12 Mile. Our producer is a Detroiter and lives there. Let's see, our composer is a Detroiter who lives there, and our sound man and our PAs. So I'd say we're 70% Detroit crew. Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
The opening sequence was really almost kaleidoscopic with the images and the sound. That was really great. You have a really good editor and sound people.
Thank you. We have a wonderful editor. Inat Sidi is our editor. She's amazing. And, you know, we're really proud of the craft on this film. This is, we've been doing this for a little while, and we really tried. Detroit deserved this kind of visual treatment and the soundscape and the kaleidoscope, as you say. We like to say that the movie kind of looks like a bowl of jelly beans, which is a good thing. And so, yeah, we took a lot of care with the technical aspects of the film on this one, because it's sort of the city sort of begs to be filmed in a certain way, which I'm sure Tony can tell us about. Actually, why don't you tell them about that?
I'll ramble about it for a minute, and then Heidi can save me. I'd say going into it, the only things we did know is that we were going to shoot handheld, which we always do, and it gives it more a sense of kineticism, dynamism. And we were going to shoot on the long end of the lens to be intimate. Create a sense of intimacy. After that, we kind of let the story give us what it wanted to give us. And because we were shooting a longitudinal documentary over a course of a year and a half, we were able to observe the footage and start to look for predominant themes that came through. For example, this sense of inner resolution, this inner resolve that Detroiters have, and sense of pride in place. Also maintaining a sense of humor under sometimes less than ideal circumstances. So you start to pick up on those clues and those cues and start to pay attention for them, not just observing with your eyes, but also with your ears, and start to weave those threads together. And hopefully that comes through.
Yes?
Considering that Detroit is so wound up and bound in the auto industry, were you interested? Did you make any effort to talk to any of the auto executives?
The question is, did we make an effort to speak to some auto executives? Well, we did speak to Bill Ford at the auto show, it was, I mean, there was nothing to be learned there. Nothing new was said. It was more of sort of slogans and things like that. And Ford also didn't take the bailout money, so it's a kind of a different story. But the person we really tried to get in the film was the CEO of American Axle, Dick Dow, and because he's the guy who in the beginning shuts the plant down. We tried so hard. It was months, it was browbeating, it was phone calls, it was meetings, it was begging, it was pleading. They finally said yes, because I said, well, we want to hear your side of the story. There must be a corporate America side of the story. We need to hear it. You know, why are you taking the jobs away? Is it only because you're paying the workers in Mexico $4.24 an hour, or is there something else? Do you have anything to say? Let's say it. You know, we'll give you full respect, of course. And they said yes, and we set up a date to film, and then their lawyers called me and said that they would let us film him on the condition that they would look at the footage after and take out things that they didn't like that he said, which we call editorial control in my world. And we had said, listen, man, we've talked to the mayor, we talked to the richest guy in Detroit, we filmed presidents, and no one's ever asked for editorial, we can't give it. What do you mean you can't give it? It's a totally normal question, they said. So we had to drop it. We didn't. So that's the disappointment for me, that we don't have that voice of sort of the corporate side, because I think we'd all like to sort of have that discussion, and we hope that when we take the film out across the country and we start taking it to cities, we can bring that side into the film, because I think you can't have this conversation without bringing in sort of a more formal corporate approach or perspective. So we hope to do that with bringing the film out, but we tried our best. Sir?
Have you noticed any discussion or buzz as a result of this about some remedy, some revitalization, some discussion?
The question is, what since we've made this film, is there revitalization and solutions being offered? You know, I think, you know, decline is a choice. It's not an inevitability, and I don't believe that Detroit has to go away. I think that it's open for solutions. They are trying certain things. There's a lot of ideas, and we try to put the ideas in the film. The urban farming, which someone in this room is going to ask me about sooner or later, because we've all read about it. You know, there was this plan a couple years ago, this idea that was floated, that this man, John Hance, a very wealthy Detroiter, was going to, his plan was to take 40 square miles of Detroit and make it into a food producing, the largest urban farm, and you know, in the country, and a place that could produce its own food. And it was very, very exciting. It got a lot of press. Of course, we ran over there and thought that was going to be happening when we were filming over the 2 years. And the plan didn't happen. It got stalled. It wasn't real. And he's planted some trees last month. They've started a little project, but there's lead in the soil. There's issues. So that could take root. I mean, it really could. It hasn't yet. It's an interesting idea. Maybe its day has come. Maybe it's not realistic. I don't know. I mean, you know, a businessman told me, what, so we can pay $2 for a tomato? It'll never be as cheap to buy than chili and things like that. So it's an interesting conversation about, but that's an idea. It might happen. I think, you know, the shrinking of the city is also stalled. They said they're going to make some sort of announcement in August and make a new plan. It's absolutely stopped the conversation about shrinking the city because people react so negatively. You know, a state takeover of Detroit could force the shrinking and relocation, which would not be a good scene. So one hopes that it doesn't come to that, because those are the kind of powers that an emergency manager would have. I think that entrepreneurship is starting to take root in the city, and I think that is that's where the focus should happen in Detroit, is in small businesses. The thing with Detroit is that it's been a one-horse town. You know, always hoping that we're only just one excellent car away from recovery. And that's not going to happen anymore with the way the market share is of the auto industry, as we know. So I think getting away from that, you know, paternalistic relationship that Detroiters have with the auto companies, it's really hard to break oneself from that. I understand that. I'm the daughter of American manufacturing. My father's company, his factory, made things for all the companies. So I understand what it means to be reliant on that. It put me through college, and so manufacturing is very important. But it's part of the problem that Detroit has is this leaning so heavily and hoping that it's just going to turn around. So I would say small businesses, entrepreneurship. I think these artists and young kids that are coming in are great. Are they going to save Detroit? No, but they're one of the factors that can help bring Detroit back. A lot of the kids come to Detroit because it's cheap to live and they don't have to work or work as many hours, so there's a problem right in there somewhere. You know, so I hate to, it's just like, I don't, you know, everything's possible there. It just, there has to be some sort of, and we're trying to tell a national story here as well. There actually needs to be some changes collectively we make as a country, some trade policies that might need to be revisited, and there's some legislation that maybe could help places like Detroit. I'm not talking about more bailouts, talking about sort of more equal playing field. And you know, the transfer of technology to places like China is real, it is happening. As soon as the research and development leaves the country, that the country is much worse off, and that's kind of where we're headed, and we tried to allude to that in the film. There's some bigger things that I think need to be addressed that would help Detroit and other cities like that. Sorry for the long speech, but maybe I answered like 11 questions right in there. Sir?